Hey, what is up, mortals? It is Ellen here with a new video for you. Welcome to part 5 of What If Saitama Was in MHA. I just wanted to greet you guys by saying, sit back and relax, you're in for a treat. So, we begin. Saitama? What are you doing here? Midoriya stood up and spouted in shock. Aizawa gave Midoriya a single glare, and the boy took it as a sign to sit back down. The teacher finally then spoke. Class, this is Saitama. He is an adult hero student, and today he'll be shadowing me as we take a field trip to the unforeseen simulation joint. The class jumped up from their seats and cheered at the word field trip, but with another glare, the students all sat back down. Ida took his role as vice president very seriously as he ordered the class to get into a straight and orderly line before boarding the bus. Midoriya sat next to his mentor as the rest of the students found their seats. Why didn't you tell me you were coming today? Midoriya asked. I didn't find out I would be coming until today either, Saitama explained. My teacher said that I would get a lot of experience at the USJ facility since I apparently don't know how to be gentle. After the battles Midoriya had in All Might's class against Bakugo and Bad, his homemade outfit had gotten pretty beat up. Luckily, the replacement costume from a support company came in, and he put it on with a smile. The material was overall stronger, and he had better quality joint braces. Midoriya looked in the mirror as he swung his cape around with a smile. Ida started urging the students along, so Midoriya took one last look at himself in the mirror and headed out. The students chatted among themselves as they got transported to the USJ. The discussion centered around how pro-worthy everyone's quirks were. Tsu commented on how Midoriya, like All Might, had an extreme strength-enhancing quirk. Midoriya reiterated how he didn't have one, but Tsu just pretended to accept his answer. Yeah, it's really weird how you have All Might's strength, but minus the quirk, Kaminari commented, having several students nod in agreement. Huh? Saitama started. What's wrong with being quirkless? I don't have one either. The students stopped and stared at Saitama, and he started to feel awkward. Saitama is my mentor. He taught me how to be strong like him, Midoriya explained. The students bombarded the pair with questions, and Midoriya prepared himself as he knew what was coming next. Saitama put on his serious face as he explained in great detail his training regimen and life story for the rest of the bus ride. Luckily, his story was cut short as the bus finally arrived at the USJ. Saitama and the students poured out of the bus, and they met up with Rescue Hero 13. The Rescue Hero explained that many quirks have a strong capacity to save, but they also have a strong capacity to kill. Saitama and Midoriya shared a knowing glance as she continued. Amid 13's explanation, a dark purple portal in the middle of the USJ appeared. Hundreds of villains poured out of the mist. One of the villains covered in dismembered hands made an announcement. Where's All Might? My source said that he would be here. He started scratching at his neck roughly as he states. I guess we can kill a few kids until he shows up. Then we'll get to kill him with his students dead in front of his eyes. Midoriya and Saitama prepared to jump at the villains, but Aizawa prevented them because they didn't have enough experience to deal with a villain attack. Aizawa warned 13 and Saitama to protect the students as he rushed into the horde of villains alone. We've dealt with villains that were more intimidating than these, Midoriya whispered to Saitama. He flashed back to that one blonde girl he had to deal with and shivered. Saitama flashed back to that one mosquito he couldn't kill and shivered. Villains started rushing at the students as Aizawa jumped towards them, erasing their quirks and using his wrap scarf to knock them out. The students soon realized that there was no signal inside of the USJ, so they tried to leave out the front door. As they ran towards the door, a villain made up of fog appeared to block them from exiting. Bakugo and Kirishima both jumped at the villain, but it was no use due to his gaseous body. 13 attempted to use her quirk, Black Hole, to dismantle the villain, but he formed a portal behind her, causing her to destroy her back. The villain then encased the students within his fog and teleported them randomly across the USJ. Midoriya felt Saitama grab him protectively, but then he felt the sensation of freefall. He dived into the water and looked around. As a villain swam towards him, Tsu kicked him away and dragged Midoriya to the surface. They quickly boarded a boat with Mineta in tow and developed a plan to get out of the situation. They were stranded in the shipwreck zone and were surrounded by villains with water quirks. The trio concluded that the villains didn't have prior information on the students due to them being cautious of Mineta's quirk. Along with this, they came to the bone-chilling conclusion that the villains wouldn't target All Might without them having a way to kill him. With the villains' patience shrinking, the three had a plan of escape. This video is sponsored by NordVPN. Staying safe online is an ever-growing difficulty, and hackers could exploit you. NordVPN allows you to change your IP address, making you harder to track, securing your privacy. In addition to providing you with safe passage through the web, you can also expand the reach of your favorite streaming services. Are you tired of going through 2, 3, or even 4 streaming services to watch your favorite anime? Well, with NordVPN, you can change your country and be able to binge shows like My Hero Academia, Naruto, and many others on your favorite streaming service with just a press of a button. Check out the link in the description to get 72% off when buying for 2 years for $3.29 a month. This deal is for a limited time. And thank you to NordVPN for sponsoring this video. As a villain's water quirk struck the boat, Midoriya jumped high into the air and reeled back his arm. When Midoriya reached the climax of his jump, he punched downwards, causing wind to spiral towards the water. Tsu jumped off of the boat with Mineta being carried by her tongue before the wind hit them. The wind caused a whirlpool, causing the villains to be sucked down into the center of the spinning water. Inspired by Midoriya, Mineta threw a multitude of his balls at the villains, causing them to stick together as they reached the center of the vortex. As all the water met in the middle of the whirlpool, it exploded upwards, causing the villains to get thrown up into the air and land back into the water stuck together. Midoriya landed on the edge of the lake, followed by Tsu and Mineta as they watched their teacher take out the villains. They watched as almost effortlessly, Aizawa knocked out villains using his wrap scarf. That is, until a bird-like beast charged in. As it lifted its arm to hit Aizawa, it seemingly teleported into a wall. The teacher looked to where the creature previously was and saw Midoriya standing there with focused eyes deadlocked on the creature. "Kid, I told you to stay out of this." "No! You were about to get hurt, and I am not going to stand by and watch it happen when I can prevent it!" Aizawa grinned and gave Midoriya a nod of approval. The villain, covered in hands, started laughing hysterically. "You're so cool, kid! You were able to punch away my Nomu with a single punch! But it's nothing against its shock absorption and regeneration." The Nomu stood up, and the hole that was once in its stomach closed. "Nomu, kill that kid!" In an instant, a large boom echoed throughout the facility. Time seemed to slow for Midoriya as he saw his mentor send a punch right into the creature's gut. High winds blew around him, and the force of the impact threatened to throw Midoriya off his feet. He stood his ground. The punch rippled throughout the Nomu's body. Waves of flesh distorted its body more and more as a black blood-like substance was forced to burst out of its skin. The creature splattered into the air as small chunks of its mutilated body dissolved into nothing, reduced to atoms. Time seemed to catch up as a large explosive wind exploded out of the punch's origin. The winds carried the black liquidy chunks and splattered them across some of the students and villains. Everyone around Saitama and Midoriya flew backward and through the walls of the USJ as the winds fought to escape the building. The roof imploded from the pressure, causing a boom whose sound waves shook the city around it. The students and villains scattered indiscriminately into the forested surroundings, helpless to the wind's will. Bakugo gripped the side of a tree as he looked at the scene from a distance. He was forced to squint due to the harsh winds and made out the image of Midoriya next to Saitama. He flinched as he got splashed in the face with a Nomu chunk and repressed an urge to vomit. The villain, covered in hands, began to crawl around searching for a hand that once covered his face. His crazed eyes scanned the area as he mumbled indistinguishable words. When he eventually stumbled upon it, he retracted his hand as a sharp pain filled his nerves. The villain turned to see the hero snipe with a smoking gun, along with an army of UA teachers, including All Might. The villain shouted at the #1 hero, "I'll kill you, All Might! Nomu, attack!" The heroes approached the villain as he desperately called for his Nomu. He backed up until his back hit a tree. The villain began to panic and started yelling at the heroes, saying that they somehow cheated. The villain attempted to flee into the forest. He immediately fell through as he got shot several more times by Snipe. All Might approached the bleeding villain and kneeled next to him. The villain tried to use his quirk on the #1 hero, but nothing happened. "Can't do that on my watch," Aizawa remarked. All Might put the villain in hand restraints and slumped him over his shoulder. The villain repeatedly cried for his master, but no one was coming to save him. He looked around as he saw the villain named Kurogiri being put into restraints. He saw various chunks splattered across the ground that was once his Nomu. He looked at his reflection in the windshield of a police vehicle. All of his family's hands were gone. All except for a singular hand that remained on the back of his head. He became silent as his tantrum suddenly stopped. All Might handed the villain into police custody. The heroes scouted around the forest, arresting villains and gathering up the students. Forensic experts collected the Nomu's remains for examination. A detective found the Nomu's heart and was horrified to find that it was reforming into a body again. They also collected several rotted gray hands found near the scene and submitted them for a DNA test. They quickly identified them as the hands of a family declared dead after their property was found disintegrated. Just as quickly they identified the hands, they identified the hand villain's identity, Tenko Shimura. As All Might heard the family name, his blood ran cold. All Might's attention was caught as police began to shout for backup. Both Shigaraki and Kurogiri had a black substance envelop their bodies. All Might dove to grab the man named Tenko Shimura, but it was too late as both villains had disappeared. The hero made a small crater as he punched the ground in frustration. The villains appeared on the floor in front of the silhouette of a man with a mask enveloping his entire head. The shadowy man gave Shigaraki new instructions. He didn't focus on his master's words, though, as a certain freckle-faced boy and bald man were on his mind. Back at the remains of the USJ, Saitama fell to his knees and stared at his fist. "A single punch every time," he murmured to himself until he suddenly yelled out, "Damn it!" He felt a tap on his shoulder and looked up to see Midoriya. The kid looked at him sympathetically, so he got back up with a sigh. Several policemen approached the pair with Aizawa behind them. One officer grabbed Saitama and was about to restrain him in handcuffs, but Aizawa prevented them. "I'll figure out how to deal with this legal and financial nightmare later. For now, we have to give our accounts to the police." The plot of land that used to have the facility atop it was now destroyed. The dome's roofing completely collapsed in on itself, and only a singular segment of the wall was still standing. Saitama looked as though he was completely oblivious to the trouble he was in. He'd just caused millions of dollars of property damage and did hero work without a license. Aizawa would have to do some major legal gymnastics to get his shadow out of this. After the police concluded their witness evaluation, Aizawa said that the class would take a day off of school to recover mentally from the incident. As the students began walking to the bus back to UA, Aizawa wrapped Midoriya and Saitama in his wrap scarf. "Don't think I'll let you two off that easily." Midoriya laughed nervously as he felt Aizawa staring daggers into him. Saitama, on the other hand, was completely confused about what he was in trouble for. "You just destroyed a multi-million-dollar facility, and I'm sure that you know that you could have defeated that Nomu without that much collateral damage." Midoriya profusely apologized on behalf of his and his mentor's actions, but Aizawa wasn't having it. The teacher looked over at Saitama, and he was casually cleaning his ear with his finger. Aizawa was frustrated, but he released the pair with a sigh. Nezu was gonna tear into him the moment he got back on campus. All of this stress was giving him a headache. Thank you all for indulging yourselves in all this information thus far. I hope you enjoyed it. Now there are a few more things that I'd like to go over before the video ends. Firstly, if you're in the mood for some great storytelling, We the Celestials has got you covered. Our We the Celestials, My Hero Academia, and Naruto What If channels retell the story of their namesake anime with a twist. Check it out if you're interested. Secondly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details can be found in the description below. Lastly, if you're interested in what we do here at We the Celestials, then I'd like to extend you an invitation to join the team. The only caveat being that we only accept members from 16 years and up to join our crew. You can sign up for whichever category fulfills your interests by joining the recruitment Discord using the link in the description below. We're always looking for new members to join us. Well, that's it from us for today's video, so thank you all for watching and have a great day.